Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
A birthday party, someone hands you a beautifully wrapped box. Everyone watches, smiles everywhere. Anticipation fills the air. One person tears it open with genuine excitement, eyes lighting up, already composing a thank you in their head. But somewhere in that same room, someone else is holding their gift like a small bomb, heart racing, smile frozen, already calculating what they owe in return. Why? What kind of mind looks at a gesture most people consider loving and feels not joy but discomfort? Not gratitude but pressure, not warmth but a strange kind of dread. Tonight, we explore the psychology of people who hate receiving gifts. And if you've ever unwrapped something while secretly wishing you could disappear, stick with me until the end. Because the reason behind your discomfort might explain far more about you than you've ever realized. Gift giving is ancient. It predates language, currency, and even civilization as we know it. Anthropologists have found evidence of gift exchange in the earliest human communities. It was how we built alliances, how we signaled trust. As we said, without words, you matter to me. And yet, some people receive a gift and feel trapped. They smile, say thank you, and express appreciation. But inside, something tightens, something resists, something whispers, I didn't ask for this. Society calls them ungrateful, cold, difficult, but psychology tells a different story. Because hating gifts isn't about hating kindness, it's about what gifts represent. And for some minds, that representation is far more complicated than a ribbon and a bow. Let's start with this because it's the most common and the least understood. Some people don't see a gift, they see an invoice, not consciously, not logically, but somewhere deep in their nervous system, a gift registers as debt. As an obligation, as a transaction that now requires repayment. Psychologically, this is called reciprocity anxiety. It's the overwhelming fear that accepting something means owing something, and for people wired this way, owing never feels small. It doesn't matter if the gift is a coffee or a car. The internal response is the same. What do they expect now? When do I have to give back? What if I can't match this? These are people who learned somewhere along the way that nothing comes free. Maybe they grew up in households where love was conditional, where presents came with strings. Phrases such as "I gave you everything" became weapons during arguments. Maybe they watched someone be generous, then demand loyalty in return. Maybe they learned that kindness was currency and currency always has interest. So now, even when a gift is genuinely free, even when there's no expectation attached, their brain simply doesn't believe it. They're not ungrateful, they're guarded. They've been trained by experience to distrust generosity, and undoing that training takes more than a wrapped box. For them, refusing gifts isn't rejection, it's protection. It's their way of saying, I don't want to owe anyone anything because owing has hurt me before. And if you've ever opened a present while mentally calculating how to pay it back, you know exactly what this feels like. Now let's go deeper, because debt isn't the only reason people resist gifts. Some people hate receiving gifts because gifts represent a loss of control. Think about it for a second. When you buy something for yourself, you choose. You research, you decide, you control every variable. But when someone gives you a gift, they've made decisions for you. They've chosen what you should want. What would you like? What should enter your life? For people who value autonomy, this can feel invasive. Not cruel exactly, but destabilizing. Psychologically, this connects to something called locus of control. People with a strong internal locus of control believe they should direct their own lives. They trust their own judgment. They feel safest when choices are theirs. Gifts disrupt that. Suddenly, there's an object in your home you didn't select. A sweater in a color you'd never pick. A decoration that doesn't match your space. A book you'll never read but can't throw away because someone thought of you. And now you're stuck. Keeping it feels like surrendering your preferences. Returning it feels ungrateful. Discarding it feels cruel. For these people, this isn't a small inconvenience. It's genuine psychological friction, a tiny invasion of their carefully managed world. They don't hate the giver. They hate the position the gift puts them in, and here's what makes it worse. They can't explain this without sounding cold. Saying I like choosing my own things sounds selfish in a culture that worships generosity, so they stay quiet. They accept gifts with tight smiles, and they internalize their discomfort. But that discomfort is real. And it's not about materialism, it's about sovereignty. Some people need to be the author of their own life down to the smallest detail. And gifts, however well-meaning, feel like someone else editing their story. Now this next one, this is the one that hurts to read. Some people hate receiving gifts because receiving feels vulnerable, and vulnerability feels dangerous. When someone gives you a gift, they're saying, I see you, I thought about you, I wanted to make you happy. For most people, that feels warm, but for some, it feels exposing. Psychologically, accepting a gift requires you to be seen. To acknowledge that you matter to someone, to sit in the discomfort of being valued. And for people who struggle with self-worth, this is almost unbearable. They don't feel deserving. They don't believe they're worth the thought, the money, the effort. And when proof of their worth arrives in physical form, it contradicts their internal narrative so sharply that it creates pain. This is called cognitive dissonance. It's what happens when external reality clashes with internal belief. If you believe deep down that you're not worth much, a generous gift doesn't feel like confirmation of your value. It feels like a mistake, like the giver got it wrong. Like eventually they'll realize you didn't deserve it and feel disappointed. So these people deflect, they downplay, they say you shouldn't have, and they mean it literally. They refuse gifts not because they don't want to be loved, but because they don't know how to let love in without questioning it. And there's another layer here worth understanding. Accepting a gift creates intimacy. It says, I trust your affection, I received your care, I let you close. For people with avoidant attachment styles, this is terrifying. Closeness means potential loss. Affection means potential betrayal. Every gift becomes a thread connecting them to someone who could eventually leave, so they resist, not the gift itself, the connection. They push away generosity because generosity asks them to stay open, and staying open has hurt before. If you've ever said, please don't get me anything, and meant it from your bones, this might be why. Here's where it gets complicated though, because hating gifts isn't a flaw, but it isn't neutral either. On one hand, these people often have incredible self-awareness. They understand their triggers, they've learned to protect their peace. They don't perform gratitude, they don't feel. In a world full of fake smiles and forced appreciation, their honesty is rare, even admirable. They're the ones who mean every thank you they give because they don't give them cheaply. They're the ones whose affection, when offered, is genuine because it was never obligated. And often they're incredibly generous themselves because they understand what a gift truly costs. Not money, thought, attention, care, but here's the shadow side. Constantly refusing gifts can isolate people. It can make loved ones feel rejected. It can close doors that were opening. It can turn self-protection into self-imprisonment because gifts aren't just objects. They're bids for connection, and consistently refusing them, even gently, teaches people to stop reaching. Psychologically, there's a balance between protecting yourself and letting yourself be loved. And finding that balance requires something harder than saying no. It requires examining why no feels so necessary. So now the question returns quietly. Which one were you? The one who calculates debt before even unwrapping? The one who feels their autonomy shrink with every gift bag handed over? The one who deflects generosity because sitting and being valued feels wrong? Or maybe all three, maybe different ones at different times. If one of these felt uncomfortably familiar, sit with it for a moment, not to fix, not to judge, just to name. Because understanding why you resist what others offer freely is the first step toward deciding if you want to keep resisting. And here's the truth no one says out loud. You're allowed to have complicated feelings about gifts. You're allowed to prefer experiences over objects, quality time over wrapped boxes. You're allowed to ask loved ones to stop spending money and just show up. But you're also allowed to let people love you in their way, even if it's not your way. Receiving gracefully doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you owe. It doesn't mean you've surrendered control. Sometimes it just means I see that you see me. And I'll let that be okay. The world frames gift giving as simple. Someone gives, someone receives, gratitude follows. But for some people, there's an entire psychological landscape beneath that moment. Fear, protection, old wounds, new walls. Hating gifts doesn't make you broken. It makes you someone who learned that love doesn't always arrive without cost. And unlearning that takes time. But maybe it starts with one small gift, one moment of receiving without calculating, one breath where you let someone's kindness land without deflecting it, not because you owe them, but because you might deserve it more than you've allowed yourself to believe. So tell me, which one are you, and more importantly, what would change if you let yourself receive just once without resistance? Think about that. If this made you see yourself differently, hit subscribe. We go deeper into the psychology in every video that actually explains to you. Don't forget to like. It helps more people find messages like this one. And I'll see you in the next one. We're just getting started.